skateboarding at school, and 6 of these Crips pushed me off my board, beat me up. I went home. I got a bat. The next day, I brought it with me to school, and I went and I brained that kid right in class, man, for taking my skateboard.
Was it normal to be a skinhead as a teenager?
I could cut off my right arm right now and take that one moment back in time to alleviate that person of any suffer or trauma that they might be able to deal with. I would do it.
Tell us about that year in county jail, LA County Jail.
I used to hunt drug cartels for a living, Ian.
He grew up in California as a skinhead gang member. He survived California prisons and jails and somehow ended up hunting drug cartels in Mexico. This is Dave Franke's insane life story.
Dave, welcome to Locked In. Thanks so much for coming out here today.
Ian, man, thank you for having me in your studio. I'm completely honored to be here. I've been watching you now for about a year and a half or whatever. Your story is amazing. In fact, I feel like I should be interviewing you, man. Really, and people have done it, but man, thanks for having me.
When I'm in LA, you can interview me when we go out to dinner.
I would love it. I'll take you. Well, you know what? They shut down Dharma Grib. It's this cool Moroccan restaurant on Sunset Boulevard, but they shut it down a few years ago. Turned it into some. Actually, it's closed. The building's still there, but I'll find another place to take you. You and your. Hey, congratulations on your female companionship.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Matty Ice is super dope. I dig that too.
He's a good man. He's working hard.
No, you gotta keep her.
I do. I learned that when I did the Mr. Beast challenge this year. That guy's loyal to a fault. There's not many people that can show up the way he does.
Well, it's weird because you'll see him online, but then to meet him in person, the guy's just like over the top nice, man. So I mean,
he is really nice.
I dig it.
Now, so the audience knows before we get the trolls, you spread out all your paperwork for us on the ping pong table.
I did. I'm a stickler for details. One of the things that I like most about you is your way of being able to sell and warm people over. And I used to do, believe it or not, cold call, telephone sales for coast-to-coast computer products from a guy that was stabbed through the chest with a knife and then is now worth $50 million. So because he just worked his work ethic. And there was a guy there by the name of Stacy Schulman who taught me how to sell stuff. And my style was not like yours. It was just very brutal. Hey, Ian, I'm going to call you in 6 months. If not now, give me a chance to earn your business down the line. And so I really like the way that you do things. I wish I was as refined and sophisticated as you are, but I'm not.
I think my style attracts people, where some like other interviewers that are very pushy, they have to go to that person to get them on the show in some cases, whereas mine will just like automatically attract.
No, totally. I've been trying to get on your show for a while, man. I've been like, hey, please pick me. But anyways, getting back to the paperwork, I'm a stickler for details, so you have to do what you say. You have to verify what it is. And so, yeah, I wanted to show you all my paycheck stubs, that you can cross-reference the paycheck numbers with the government in Mexico, with the state treasury, just everything. My carta de comisión, the serial numbers on the weapons I carried. Because the thing that I like about your podcast is you're genuine. And you got, I forget who it was, you had a U.S. Marshal on here with the big beard. Mm-hmm. In that video, that was when I really thought, I want to be on that guy's show. Because just the way... I have a friend that's a lot like him. His name's Glenn back home in L.A. And he's just sitting here. He's like super chill. And the guy's like a total badass. But I dig just your way of doing things. So, yes, to your audience, I have verified who I am. I get around. I meander off point a little bit. Forgive me. But, yes, Ian has seen all of my stuff. And so there it is.
Where'd you grow up?
I was born in L.A. I was born in the Granada Hills in the San Fernando Valley portion of L.A. And even though I was born there, my mom used to smoke pot with Charles Manson. And she had me 1 month after turning 17. My dad, my biological dad, is a post-op transsexual and cut his stuff off and everything. So my parents are kind of, I got very good parents. I would not choose any other parents over anything ever. Because in the end, they did turn out to be very good parents. But initially, they gave me away the day I was born to a doctor and lawyer up in San Francisco. And I don't really remember it. I think they beat me or whatever. But my mom wound up getting me back about a year or 2 years after I was born. And right about the time my half-brother was being born. And his dad, who I also called Dad, had just gotten back from Vietnam while my dad was still over in Vietnam. So I've got like two dads. And when they got together, he was from Iowa. And so for the first few years of my life, they did get me back shortly before moving to Iowa, in LA still. But when we moved to Iowa, I lived there until I was like 13 or 14 years old, growing up on a corn and pig farm. Learned to shoot, box, detassel corn, very hard physical manual labor. Jumping out of the third story of a barn in a pile of what I thought was hay was actually pig manure that was covered with hay, had it shoot up my nose. That was my childhood. And my dad, biological dad, was a tunnel rat in Vietnam, so he's got his own set of hardships that he had to deal with. And my other dad was a combat Marine, and they had both seen a lot of heavy action, so they're kind of like very straight, hard, direct. I don't want to call them mental because that would be over the top. They had to suffer unspeakable things in Vietnam, I'm certain. Even just being there, not killing anyone, would be difficult. And I am quite certain they both neither one of them will even speak about it. If I even bring it up in relation to what I've seen or done in Mexico and try to talk to them, neither one of them ever really liked talking about it very much. And I get it. But because of this, my mother and my father divorced, and we wound up back in LA when I was like 13, 14 years old.
Do you think you were born tough, or did that time on the farm kind of shape you into having that toughness?
Born tough? I don't think anyone's born tough. I think that life shapes all of us. One of my big things that I'm really attracted about the way that you do business and everything is you become tough too. Like I saw a picture of you out there on the wall where you're like in 2014 and you're a lot younger. And then I don't know if your audience has ever seen your studio or whatever, but this guy's balling just in case. So successful, so many famous people attracted you, and you're the conduit for all of that going out to the media that reaches the world. So born tough? I don't think so. I think that life shapes all of us, and that I wouldn't classify myself as tough anyways. I mean, yeah, you have to work. Nature requires that of all of us. I mean, Louisiana producer gets smashed. I've lived there. New York, when I got back from Mexico, I came here to Brooklyn and got a job 45 minutes away. I was surprised when I found out where your studio was because I used to work right there in Peekskill, and I would live in Brooklyn, 24 Havermeyer Street. I'm not going to tell you what apartment number because I don't want you blowing it up, but it was at 24 Havermeyer Street. My roommate was a Kenyan lady that was going for her master's in finance. Horrible cooking. The house smelled like hell. No disrespect, but the food did have a very distinct odor. But I love living in Brooklyn, love being out here. But born tough, I see all these people that I meet in all these different places, and life forms each of us in a very particular, peculiar way that's intrinsic to each of us. I mean, so tough, no. Growing up on a farm, it did teach you manual labor. Going to L.A., that was a huge culture shock. I never saw someone that wasn't white until I was like 9 or 10 years old visiting my grandmother in L.A. So you grow up in Iowa and it's completely white. And back then there was not Latinos working all over the farms. It was all white people. And I try to steer clear of race because it's such a touchy subject. I don't want to offend anybody, but also at the same time, I just want to say things the way that they were, and that's the way that it was. To L.A., everyone is Latino and black and gangs and everything, and then all of a sudden it was like a complete culture shock. That toughens you up. I came out of my grandmother's house. We lived immediately next door to some projects one day, and my brother's being beaten up by several African-American kids that lived in the projects, and he's screaming. And my brother's huge now. He's like 6'6", 280 pounds, very big guy. And they're lighting him up. And so that was L.A. That makes you tough. Getting busted for an attempted murder, not busted for it, but arrested for attempted murder, and then getting thrown in there and you're fighting with a bunch of Latinos and doing half your time in the hole. That makes you tough.
How old were you when that happened?
That was that's fast forwarding quite a bit. That
All
was
right, so we'll get there.
Yeah, that was 21. That was in 1991.
So when you were a teenager in LA, 13, 14, what were your aspirations? What were you seeing for the future for you?
My aspirations were figuring out, half my family's military as I got into, the other half are all potheads, which is weird because my grandmother's a 1950 June Cleaver type lady. My mom was smoking pot with Charles Manson, as I told you. So half that family knows how to cultivate marijuana. If I wanted to, I could give a tutorial video on how to manufacture wax for dabbing and stuff like that using butane and PVC tubes, and we'll stay out of that. But my aspirations back in 13 and 14 were trying to figure out how to mimic my uncles and my aunts to make marijuana pipes out of bamboo, because there's a whole bunch of bamboo in my grandma's yard, stuff a brass screen into it, and then just those were my aspirations. And I was going to school at the first school that I went to in Northridge Junior High, and they had busing. So no matter where you went to school in LA, you were guaranteed to be going to school with gang members because they bus people all over the city. And so I went to school, and I was just a typical little skateboarder kid, very good at skateboarding. I still skateboard to this day, but I'm skateboarding at school, and 6 of these Crips pushed me off my board, beat me up. I went home. I got a bat. The next day, I brought it with me to school, and I went and I brained that kid right in class, man, for taking my skateboard. And I wish that hadn't happened, and people shouldn't have to go to school. That, not just me, them too. I mean, because I wound up in San Fernando Valley Juvenile Hall. There's a whole bunch of people. Ant Dog from Pacoima, Peru, the first guy I fought. I still remember this guy. I don't know where he's at and what his life turned out to be. But for all of us, a lot of Latino and black kids get into gangs, but if you're a white kid, most people don't get in gangs if they're white. But if you do get in a gang and you're white, you're going all the way down because you're just going to be involved with some serious stuff. In fact, I was just talking to Johnny about it, that I'm sure you know. But they had a RICO indictment for all the white people. Hate 18 was the operation number. They just did this, and they got them all on a RICO indictment at a federal level for white people in the San Fernando Valley where I'm from. So that's not that I was involved with any of that, but I know several of the people that were in that. And that's just the ambience that you're going to. So, I mean, you get into white gangs and white supremacy. A lot of people like to talk smack about my tattoos. I've been getting them lasered off for a long time. I got great big old gnarly tattoos, and it's not anything anti-Jewish or anything. It was more of a proclamation of like, hey, I'm not going to be your punk because I'm white and have you Latino and black people think I'm just easy pickings. Now we're going to go all the way down this road. And that was junior high and high school.
All right, everyone. These are my Brunt boots. And I'm telling you right now, these changed the game for me. I used to wear work boots that felt like bricks on my feet. At the end of the day, I'd take them off and my feet were wrecked, sore, bruised, stiff, like you paid for working all day. Then I put on Brunt, and I'm not exaggerating. These were comfortable right out of the box. No break-in period, no limping for a week. Just comfortable, durable boots that actually support your feet. Guys, check these out. These things are beautiful. These right here are the Marin boots, pronounced like Karen. They check every box: lightweight, waterproof, slip and oil resistant, heat resistant, electrical hazard rated. They're legit as comfortable as sneakers, but built for real work. And you could tell these weren't designed in a boardroom. These were made for people who actually put in work every single day. Brunt even lets you try the boots on the job, and all their products ship free. And there are over 500,000 customers wearing these because they're the real deal. Also, holiday heads up, they're dropping limited edition styles all month, and once those sell out, they're gone. So if you see a colorway you like, grab it. If you have a hardworking man in your life, or you are that guy, man, go out there and spoil yourself. These are the gift that actually gets used. With temps dropping and the holidays coming up, it's time to treat yourself or the hardworking man in your life to real comfort. Skip the throwaway gifts this year and get him something built to last. Brunt Workwear. And guess what, guys? Our listeners get $10 off their entire order with code LOCKEDIN at checkout. That's bruntworkwear.com and use code LOCKEDIN. Order today and let them know you heard it here on the show.
So why do you think that was your first response, to go at them with the bat, use violence in a situation like that?
Growing up on a farm, I learned how to shoot when I was 4 years old. And not just, at first it was like a .22 rifle and shooting squirrels and stuff like that. My father, like I said, I got two dads, but the dad that raised me, we would eat ringneck pheasant, we would eat squirrel, we would eat rabbit, and we'd go right out we lived on a farm, and we'd go out and shoot it, come home and clean it. I even cracked a tooth one time on some lead shot that was in there, chipped a little piece of my tooth off. That was early life. And so you said, why did I go after him after the guy with the bat? He gave us these great big, my dad gave us these great big, hell, they were plastic that you would fill with air, but the bopper gloves. And he'd put one on each hand, and me and my brother would each get one each. And we'd go after each other in the front yard just fighting. And he'd hit us so hard that our head would hit the ground before our feet did. And we loved it. We just thought it was the best thing ever because you're not really getting hit. It's a big plastic air-filled glove. But going after that guy, you're either going to put up with stuff in life or you're not. And I'm not going to do it. And I had a stepdad that used to beat me. Like I got a big scar on the inside of my mouth from eating a piece of chocolate the size of a quarter. I turned around and he just hit me and cut my whole inside of my mouth open. And another time I didn't do dishes. That was when I was 12 and he choked me out. And if you're ever going to die, the best way to die is to be choked out because you just go to sleep. I got tunnel vision, started falling out, not a big deal. So, of course, when those guys took my skateboard and stuff like that, the second I can get them back, I'm going to 1,000%. Not that I was always courageous either. You know, a lot of people, because I've been doing videos for about a year now. Somebody just told me, why are all like the high-speed guys snipers or whatever? I just had this comment like 2 days ago. I've not always been courageous in my life. Sometimes I've been a coward. There have been times when I should have fought and didn't. And then you get locked up or you're going to school with these people and just time after time after time, life will reaffirm to you that you either fight and stand up for what you want or you're just going to get run over. And so you have to pick what you want to do. And yeah, you're going to be scared, but you're going to have to face it either way. And you going to a federal corrections institute, I don't know what federal time's like. In fact, I don't even know what state time's like, but I do know what it's like to do a county year in LA County. And it's there's a lot of violence there. And there's a lot of things there. Going to school, branding that kid with that bat, you took my skateboard, period. You asked for it. Got nothing to do with color, has nothing to do with he's a blood or he's a Crip or he's a Latino gang member. You took my shit.
It was on principle.
100 Principle's everything. I told you I would be here today at 11 o'clock. I was early. I was here at 3 o'clock in the morning to scope it out. Yeah, I got a video up on my YouTube channel.
Wait, really?
Yeah, really. I came here. I used to hunt drug cartels for a living, Ian. I go and I check every single thing out. The federal government might not always like what I say. I check every single thing out. I sleep like 4 or 5 hours a day. I work and work and work. I got home, work. I've got my laptop with me right now. Principle, because we're talking about principle. I have my laptop with me right now because I have homework that's due later today and I have a final that's due at the end of the week while I'm still here in New York. There's no excuses ever. And I almost screwed up the rest of my life because of excuses. Oh, it's black people's fault because my life's not working out. It's Latinos' fault. They're taking all the jobs, blah, blah, blah. And as we were talking about, I've been sober like 28 years. I don't want to jump around too much, but principles are a big thing in my life. Without principles, I wouldn't be where I'm at. And I'm not like ultra mega successful. I walk in here, I'm not envious. I'm super grateful that you've got everything in your life. But at the same time, I'm thinking, I'm clocking, how can I achieve that? Because I want to have a wall with Mike Tyson, with Chevy Chase, all the people that you got out there on your wall. Man, I applaud that because when you get out, my wife and I are talking in the car. When you get out, there are certain realities about the status of your life and the way that the government perceives you from then forward. Can you become a lawyer? Can you become a doctor? All these consequences of what happened And my consequences were I wanted to jump out of a C-130 transport plane over Al-Qaeda and hunt people that were trying to kill us. Ironically, a lot of people talk smack about my tattoos. The whole way that I got into fighting or drug cartels is watching Daniel Pearl, the Daniel Pearl beheading video. And he was a Jewish American that cut off his head, Al-Qaeda. And I wasn't going to put up with it any more than I was going to put up with 6 people taking my skateboard from me when I was a kid. I'm not going to have the government. The government doesn't own you. We own every moment in our life. And when we go in that box, we go in there alone in our coffin, and that's it. And so I hope that I live my life in a way that satisfies what I want to achieve with my time on this earth, not the U.S. government's time, not the state of California's time, my time. That's what they're taking from you when they lock you up, you know, your time and your freedom. I'm not going to be told that I'm owned by anybody, ever. No way.
So after that attack in high school, do you do juvie time for that? Or
Yeah. I went to no, not for that, but I did do juvie time in San Fernando Valley Juvenile Hall. I did not do juvie time for that. I was doing hot burglaries. I would go in and was really off in a bad way during my adolescence. I broke into a cop's house that lived right behind us trying to get guns because my cousin had come out from Detroit. He's like, we need guns. And I'm like, okay, let's go get them. And my mom's kind of a liberal, or was, God rest her soul. So she's not into guns, but we were. And so there's a cop. I'm like, 100%, he's got guns in his house. Let's go get him. And so I broke into his house while him and his wife were there. And I am so lucky they didn't shoot me. And I was like 15. I broke into his house. I got busted in juvie for that. Like I went there, but they let me go. They put me on probation or whatever. And I did juvenile hall time for that. After that, I got out, and then 8 hours later, I tried to break into Magna Skate and Surf on Canoga and Devonshire, breaking through the top with a pickaxe to go get some skateboards. And Devonshire Division got me in LAPD. I'd stolen my mom's car, and I'm up on top of this. Man, I haven't ever even thought about this, but yeah. So the same judge sees me. He's like, you just got out of juvenile hall. And thank God my grandmother was friends with Dr. Joseph W. Conan, who was my teacher. He was an engineer at Ford Detroit, and he had become a probation officer for LA County. And because of that, I kind of stayed out of trouble, but they sent me to a placement for wayward boys. And so I did wind up doing some juvenile hall time and then time at placement at Rancho San Antonio in Chatsworth. And I stayed there, but I wasn't done getting in trouble yet. And it did fast forward my being expelled from my mom's house when I got home because I was just not going down the right path. I was a skinhead. I wasn't in the ideology of it, but I was completely anti-authoritarian. I just completely going to go down and nothing towards you, man. I mean, I dig you. You can come, Ian, you can come to my house and you can spend the night in your own room. I'm not hanging out in your cell, but you can have dinner. I mean, I believe in treating people with kindness and respect. Being a skinhead thing was very much derivative or derived from growing up around Latino and black gangs. And you're either going to put up with their shit or you're not. I don't like cussing, but you're either going to put up with their stuff or you're not. And I wasn't going to do it. And not just me, but my other friends. And I'll leave my sibling's story out of it, but because he's got his own story too. In fact, he's doing quite well.
I'm surprised that they didn't lock you up permanently or for a while for the breaking into the cop's house for the guns.
I got a lot of love. In fact, I didn't actually take anything. Because burglary, I broke into a side window and I heard their bedroom door was shut when I broke in. And the houses in LA are all single story, kind of like ranch style houses. So it's not like some upper story. Most of them are all one story stucco ranch style houses with old like aluminum slider windows frames. So you can get into them just pushing the center. And I got into this back like bedroom, went through his house, their bedroom was in the front, and it was a white door, and I could hear them rustling around. scared the living crap out of me. I went running out the front door so fast. I didn't even have a time to go look for anything. So getting into like, oh, he's brave, he's not. No, I hauled up like a complete chicken shit and ran out of that house. Crazy. There was another one where I'd gone in, and this is only there's 3 houses that I ever like burgled.
Burgled.
I don't know.
Burglarized.
Burgled, excuse me. Burglarized. But I didn't even burglarize them because I didn't wind up taking anything. But I did go into each 3 of these houses while people were home and going through that. My mom kind of like tripped out. I can't believe I'm even saying that. I've never spoken about that, but this is 1,000%. This is how I wind up in Rancho San Antonio. And the only reason why I didn't get sent to California Youth Authority, which is like prison for kids in California, I don't know how they do it out here. I'm assuming they got something similar. Is because my grandmother had such a good in with Joe Conan. I went to school. He was teaching at West Valley Occupational Center. I did 3 years of domestic automotive technology at West Valley Occupational Center. The guy grew up on a Sioux Indian reservation. I love that guy. He was a great, 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 great man, and he had a lot to do with turning me around and sending me down the right path. And if it wasn't for him, I, without a doubt, would have wound up much worse off.
Was it normal to be a skinhead as a teenager?
No. In L.A., no, definitely not. They do have gangs in L.A. that are white, like FFF, Peni, NLR is big in the Valley. Very big. So that's kind of normal, but normal as far as like everyone being involved in that, definitely not. No. In fact, I didn't even want to be a skinhead to begin with. Originally, I'd seen something somewhere because back in those days, the internet the internet didn't even exist. We barely had pagers. I watched pagers come out. Or beepers, and so cell phones and all of this stuff, that wasn't happening. And I'd seen somewhere, I think at a music or a punk rock show, a flyer for White Aryan Resistance or something like that, and I'm like, that sounds militant, let's do it. And coming out from Iowa back to LA, even though I'm born in LA, we grew up with a different culture with like guns and fighting and stuff like that. And in California, a lot of whites in California avoid conflict. They don't want anything to do with that. Whereas in more redneck type places, they're like, yeah, let's go down and throw on some gloves and see what's up, which I approve. I dig that approach to life. But, being a skinhead was not normal. And I had written somebody and they'd given me some pamphlets. They sent them to my mom's house. It was National Association of the Advancement of Socialist White Party or it was an acronym, and I think there was 5 or 6 letters, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but it sounded cool. We're like doing the right thing. And so I would go to punk rock shows and you'd meet other like-minded people. But where I lived, total, there was probably about 15 of us that hung real tight, and we were all getting into similar types of trouble. For example, Detective Bill Dutzman for West Valley, his son, unfortunately, was at a party, and one of the people I was hanging out with had run over and killed his son. So killed the son of a cop in L.A. and then ran out back here because he's from New Jersey. And he wound up getting a bunch of time. So there's a lot of people that are involved in like similar, just getting in trouble, doing a lot of things. And I'm not going to get too far off in the weeds with details, but just heavy, massive amounts of trouble. I talked about it on Hector Bravo about robbing drug dealers and staying high, trying to come up. He'd asked if we were balling, and like, definitely not balling. You were, man, $1 million, millions of dollars. You, like, just getting people. I applaud that, man, but just because of the amplitude, the scope of what you're doing. And what we wanted to do wasn't really buy a house up in Hollywood Hills. We just wanted to like party and stay high and like go have a good time. Wanted to jack people up because we liked fighting. It was fun. But you asked me what my aspirations were in junior high. It was making a pot pipe out of bamboo leaves with a brass pipe and turning into my aunts and my uncles. I did have hopes. The Marine Corps turned me down when I was 16 years old, which is also the same year I got kicked out of my house. My mom kicked me out. I had the Marine Corps in my house, and I'm not going to get into the specific reason on why they said no. It had to do with drugs. But I did want to join the Marines and the military from a very early age. Because I just dig that stuff, man. I mean, it's just, I don't dig it now. I don't like it. Because I think that if the only thing that I have to offer the world is the ability to stand around with a weapon in my hand that's not actually producing something that's going to change somebody's life, I have this complete idea that everyone needs to be responsible for their own safety and security in every moment because you're the only one that's with you all the time. And if the only thing that I have to offer this world is the ability to stand somewhere with a piece of metal and plastic in my hand, I'm not really producing anything. So I'm very much into going to school, trying to get a degree in law in this country so I can help people that are less fortunate than I am, producing something, producing a positive change in their life, or producing something through manufacturing. I'm a manufacturing engineer is what I do for a living. So currently, I'm working on government stuff right now. I'm not going to get into what it is, but it's got to do with China and making sure that the North Pacific Ocean is safe in case of some type of world war. There's ITAR agreements on why you can and cannot speak about it. It's not like it's some top secret something either. It's not that. But it is definitely, it has to do with the Department of Defense and doing that, producing something. But my aspirations or whatever back as a kid were non-existent. And getting kicked out at 16 years old, my brother and I were selling cocaine, and I had purchased a 1974 Firebird for $500 worth of crack cocaine, and that was my first house. And I stayed in that right behind Challenge Graphics, which is where I work because I had a job too. I've always been your work ethic. You guys, I think that's one of the things that we really have in common is work ethic. I lived in that Firebird and was eating mustard sandwiches at 16 years old behind my first job because my mom didn't want me. She was afraid I was going to get my brothers and sisters into violence, like heavy violence, having a lot to do with white supremacy and skinhead gangs. Not white supremacy so much because it's not like, for me, it was never about whites are supreme. It's just like, I'm just not putting up with your shit from anybody, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's black or Latino gangs or anything. I'm not doing it. But I'm also not smart enough to figure out how to dig my way out of this hole because I don't have the education to back it. So it was just that. So I'm staying in my Firebird. I'm working. Always been working. I think I got the work ethic from the farm. My brothers and sisters all got it too. There's 5 of us, and each one of us is just, my younger brother's a multimillionaire through helping people. I think he is. I'm not into his finances, but he's doing very, very well. And so we all have lived our separate lives. But I don't know, as a kid, any type of ambition other than going in the military was basically non-existent, and I screwed that all up. My mom kicks me out, and so I'm staying over on Galt Street, and everyone there's getting heavy amounts of trouble. And so one night there's this cop that's walking down the street. We thought it was an undercover cop. And so I ran across the street and I bombed on him, man. I'm just like, bam, knocked the guy down. And we figure, because we were selling drugs, and we figure, so I went from staying in that 74 Firebird to getting some friends, and they let me stay at their house. And we were selling drugs. I was working selling drugs. So real job selling drugs also. This guy's walking down the street 2 o'clock in the morning. I run across the street and I bomb on him. The guy falls down. Gets back up. No police come because I'm figuring if he's an undercover cop, the police will come. We get busted for just an assault on a normal person. Didn't know it was a cop. Not a big deal. In fact, you probably get sent to county jail and then bounce right back out. I mean, it's really not a big deal in California bombing on someone. Unless you kill them. I'm not going to get down that. I had a friend kill somebody by hitting them one time and did like 7 years.
For manslaughter?
Yeah. Rick, he died. A guy by the name of Rick Lake. He had hit this guy and killed him. And Rick was a big guy. He was not going to get into the clubs, but he liked motorcycle clubs. And so he was a bigger, kind of like stout guy. And he hit the guy. Guy falls out and dies. And Rick gets a manslaughter bid for like 7 years. So I didn't hit the guy like that. I didn't think it was going to kill him, but the guy turns out to be another drug dealer that's out getting out of the bars. And so we go over to this guy's house, and the guy was slit the guy's throat from ear to ear. And I'll never forget that, man. It happened right underneath a streetlight. How the guy did not die, I'm ashamed of it, actually, too, because a lot of people will talk about their war stories. Like bragging about it or whatever. And if I could cut off my right arm right now and take that one moment back in time to alleviate that person of any suffer or trauma that they might be able to deal with, I would do it. I would do it. The arm, yeah, I like having my arm. I mean, that's kind of a little over the top statement, but I do wish, it's my sincere way of trying to convey my sincere wish of being able to take that moment back. But this happens right underneath the streetlight, and there's like 3 big spurts of blood, and this guy's like bleeding profusely. It's his neck. And so we were going around looking for gang members after that happened because we'd wanted to rob the guy's house of drugs, and he didn't let us in, and that's kind of what provoked the confrontation between me and the guy between the guy and the guy that I was with. So we get back in the car and we're looking around for gang members and stuff like that. It's very early. We wind up going back to the house where it was right in front of where we lived, where we'd picked the guy up at, and LAPD was there, and they drew down on us. They were waiting for us to come back. And the guy wound up spending like a long time in intensive care. And we didn't waive our right to speedy trial or anything like that because we're like, nope. And they were trying to give us 15 years to life plus an extra 5 years on top of it. So 15 years to life for attempted murder plus another 5 years because there was 2 confrontations. There was the initial confrontation and then there was the attempted murder part because the guy had gotten away initially and we chased him down.
So this was the attempted murder charge you were talking about?
Yeah, 1991. Well, because basically my entire childhood, I don't want to call it childhood, but yes, 15, 16 years old running amok. And by running amok, I mean like completely running amok. I don't know, just stupid stuff like walking into a movie theater and you and your friends take the fire extinguishers off the wall. Yeah, man.
We've had a fire extinguisher fight in the old club I used to own.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, you come in.
We needed a leaf blower to blow all the stuff out.
Yeah, no, so you just imagine walking into a movie theater or something. I'm not saying I did this. I'm just saying that it may have happened if it did. Walking in and then just opening the back doors while a movie's going and just lighting everyone up in there with fire extinguishers on both sides because they got both exits.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this sports season. On Prize Picks, whether you're a football fan, a basketball fan, or a fan of both like me, it always feels good to be right. The NFL season is in full swing and the NBA is just getting started, and Prize Picks has made watching both so much more fun for me. It's daily fantasy that's simple. You just pick more or less on player projections, make your lineup, and if you get your picks right, you can cash in. Let me walk you through what I'm looking at right now while I got the app pulled up. For the NFL, I'm taking Drake May for more passing yards because this 8-2 offense has been dominant, and with the Jets losing Sauce Gardner, that secondary has no real talent left back there. I'm also taking Justin Fields for less passing yards because let's be real, it doesn't matter who he's playing this season, the passing game just has not been there. And then for the NBA, I'm taking my man Devin Booker for more points because with Jalen Green out and Indiana's lineup beat up, Booker should be out there dropping a bag. What I really love about Prize Picks is how easy it is to play. It works in 40 plus states, including California, Texas, and Georgia, so almost everyone can play. They now offer stacks, which means you could pick the same player up to 3 times in one lineup. So if you want more on points, assists, and threes for the same guy, you can now do that. They also offer injury reboot. So if a player leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks won't count that pick against you. And when you win, withdrawals are fast and secure, whether you use Venmo, Apple Pay, or MasterCard. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code Ian Bick to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Ian Bick to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right.
What would they charge you for that, or you would never get caught?
I don't know what the...
It's got to be like a criminal mischief or something.
It could be. I don't know. It would be some type of assault. No, actually, these days, one of the first things they taught us in law school, because I went to law school in Mexico, Professor Sal Martinez, he tells us in class, no hay ningún absoluto en derecho, which means there are no absolutes in the law, which means anything that they want to bring about in the law, they can. It just matters what the judge is feeling like that day, how good your lawyer is, how good of a lawyer you can afford, who your lawyer knows, whether you have a lawyer at all or a public defender. So what they could charge you with, they could charge you with terrorism if they wanted to. I mean, they could charge you, or they could just be like, oh, it's criminal mischief, let them go. So just that type of like shenanigans going on, bar fights, a lot of different things. But fast forwarding to, I'd gotten some SS lightning bolts tattooed on me, and that had a lot to do with having to earn your bolts, which means like shedding blood over getting your tattoos. And they're serious about it. I mean, the federal government's coming down on all the white people in your area. They're with a RICO indictment. There's a lot of stuff going on there that I'm not going to get into, but it's probably about as bad as what you could have happen to you in your childhood and young adulthood, growing up being white, involved with that group of people. For real, I thought I was going to wind up in San Quentin for the rest of my life, just doing time on a state level.
So every time you would do a violent act, you would get a bolt tattooed on you? Is that how it works?
No. When you do a violent act, you get both sets of bolts, but you have to do something violent to get them. Yeah, definitely. They're definitely like that, without a doubt.
And do you continuously get bolts, or it's a one and done?
No, it's a one-time thing. Okay. But it means that it's the equivalent of putting in work for your Latino or black gang. I mean, you got to go do. Is it rigid and written down in stone? No. But is there a general consensus? Definitely, without a doubt.
So can you not call yourself a skinhead until that happens?
It wasn't ever that regimented, Ian. I mean, it's not like, hey, we're going to. I mean, I get that in the state penitentiary or federal penitentiary, they definitely have 4 real big boy clubs that, I don't want to call them clubs, no disrespect, but they have their organizations. They have a constitution or rules that they actually absolutely live by. And if you break them, there are severe consequences. At that age in the game, it wasn't like that, but it was going off in that direction because you're all getting sent to a state penitentiary sooner or later. I mean, when you're looking at 15 years of life, they're not sending you to charm school for the misguided youth. I mean, it's big boy consequences. When the federal government comes to get you, and it's the FBI knocking on your door, or the ATF or whatever, they're for real. They mean business. And it's kind of that thing. You're going towards that. But as an adolescent, you're still not there yet, but you're definitely tracking or trending in that direction without a doubt.
Tell us about that year in county jail, LA County Jail, fighting the attempted murder charge.
We get busted, man. We get busted. They pull guns out. They roll up on us, and they got a gun pointed at my head, and they tell me if I move, they'll blow my MF and brains out. And the guy that I was with had already gotten out of the car, and he ran and took off. I don't know what happened with him, but 5 of the LAPD got on the stand and perjured themselves and stated that we said things that we never said. That guy pissed us off, pumping all that blood and still wouldn't die on us. They said that on the stand. All this should be in court transcripts if anyone ever really wants to go look it all up. Van Nuys Superior Court in L.A., 1991. And I get sent to county, LA County. And when you're going to county, you have, they've got these intake dorms, 9,000, 9,100, 9,200, 9,300, 9,400, 9,500, and 9,600. I think there's those, just those. And then after you go to classification, then you get sent into the different county modules there in downtown county. This is old LA County too, not the new Twin Towers one that they built. And that one I've never been in. But that one is very old, run down. And the 3,000 floor was where they would stick like the white power people and stuff like that, if you've got anything going on with that. So my first night in LA County when I got down there, I'm still like young. This is like all new to me. And even though I'd been to juvenile hall and placement, this is still like, okay, now it's for real. And plus, because of your charges, which are attempted murder, I'll get into that. Before classification, I go in there and there's some old essay guy, a Latino. Do they call them essays out here?
No.
Okay, essay in California is slang for a Latino guy or a Chicano. It's not disrespectful. It's a name for him back there. But they've got like all these Latino essay gangs, and there is a guy way back, and there's probably like 500 people in these dorms. So each one of these dorms has got like 500. It's a big place. It's like a little mini city with a bunch of bunk beds in a big concrete room. And there are some officers that are overseeing everything, some sheriff's deputies from LA County, way back in the corner. But basically, you can do whatever you want. There's no oversight of any. And if you're getting stomped to death in the corner, low lights. There was an essay guy that was overdosing on heroin with snot coming out of his nose. That was my very first memory of walking into that place. And I had like my court paperwork, little white blanket roll. You got to go find a bunk. And so obviously you're looking for the other white people in there. California is a completely racist. And if there's any social justice warriors, nobody cares. California is a racist system, and I actually kind of support the way that it is. That people got their own groups. Federal prison like that, where
it's more by like your state you're from.
Okay,
your state or city. At least out here on the lower federal prisons.
Right.
I know the West Coast it's completely different.
Yeah, in California, it's all about what color you are, and if you are a certain color and you're hanging out with other people. Sometimes whites can run with Latinos, but whites running with blacks, never seen it. And if you're white and you're like smoking with blacks or eating with blacks, you're going to get handled, period. It's just the way it was when I was there. And I agree with it because it cuts down on problems, because just because you might interpret the world a certain way and not see color, other people do. And that can lead to problems for your entire group. So when you're in there, it's the way it is. So you go look for your other people. And back then, they would hand out smoking tobacco. You could still smoke. These bags, so I'm smoking. I go in to go take a shower, and there's some mulatto guy going down on some great big buck black dude. So I can't even shower. So I walk, and I'm just like, man, I walk and I see that. So this is my very first night there, dude. I go back and I get a cigarette and I smoke it and I go to sleep and I wake up and I start my little thing. So I go to classification. I go down a little white power unit. But before that happened, the guards in there thought it would be funny to stick me and my crime partner in the Crip module. I've got this ongoing thing with Crips. Not that I have anything against their gang in particular, but there's a lot of Crips in LA. And so they stick us in the Crip module and we get beat up. They're lumping us up and then they pull us out because they thought it would be funny. And then they stick us in the white power module 3000. Then we wind up going to Wayside Max, which is a little satellite just north of the San Fernando Valley, where you're going to do the remainder of your time while you're fighting your court cases, your housing, your permanent housing. And then they roll you back and forth on a bus. We didn't waive our right to speedy trial, so this is not taking that long, but the guy's in intensive care, so their main witness can't even show up. And I wound up getting my GED while I was at Supermax. I got in a big fight with a bunch of Latinos in Max. I did more than half my county time in the hall because I was constantly getting in fights. And I've spoken about it. They've got Muslim 5%er gangs. I don't know if you run into them, but there's a black gang called Muslim 5%ers. And I've got these big tattoos, and so I'm doing pull-ups, and they asked me if I was a member of the KKK. Yeah, and because there's not a lot of white people in LA County, man. And I'm sitting there doing pull-ups, and these two black guys come up, and they're like, "You a member of the KKK?" And I'm like, "No, but I totally support what they believe in." Because...
That's what you said to them?
I told it on my mother. Yeah, that's exactly what I said. You've done time, Ian. What happens if you punk out?
I mean, I'd never really fought for myself, so that's where I went wrong, you know?
Well, no, but you had everyone, because so you go to classification, so they've got different modules where they put people. And in LA, if you're facing stuff like armed robbery, attempted murder, everyone in there is basically doing some type of case like that because of your security level. So you'll go to classification out of the 9,000 modules, and you'll have a security level that you go to. And in LA County, that's not true. I've been there twice. I went to Wayside minimum security one time for skateboarding down the street with a shotgun in front of Cleveland. Yeah.
Wait, so what happened to these guys when you said that?
Okay, well, just let me lay out Wayside. Okay. So there's Wayside minimum where you're stealing hot cocoa and coffee out of the kitchen and you're just doing whatever. It's basically like day camp, for real day camp. They even have weights there. Not a big deal. Wayside medium security, medium north and medium south is their medium security, burglaries and stuff like that. Wayside max and super max, that's all your murder, bank robbery, this type of stuff. Well, not bank robbery, that would be a federal beef, but anything that's serious like that, you're going there. So they walk up and they ask me, because I've got these big SS lightning bolts blasting on the back of on my forearms, and they ask me, they're like, are you a member of the KKK? And I'm like, no, but I totally support what they believe in. Because there's only two of them, but even if there had been six, I still would have I was obligated to answer that way, because if I didn't, it would have been even worse, because now you're punking out and even your own kind doesn't want anything to do with you. So they go upstairs because these are divided, these Wayside Max, Wayside Super Max. Wayside Max is laid out in single tier or single floor big dorm rooms, whereas Wayside Super Max has got 2-story dorm rooms with a little day room down there in the bottom. And they're telling me, don't go to sleep tonight, white boy. So ironically, I go up and I ask one of the Latino guys, I'm like, hey, I need a pencil. And so I go, and there's trustees that are allowed to walk around to all the different modules. And so I go get a pencil, and this was in the 600 unit. And so I get a pencil and I go back over to the stairs because the black guys are all upstairs and the whites and the Latinos are downstairs. So that's kind of how it's divvied up. And there was only 3 white guys in that dorm, and one of them didn't want anything to do with anything. And I go to the stairs because they're telling me, don't go to sleep tonight, white boy. And so I go over there. I'm like, the first one of you effing N-words that come down, exactly what I said, that comes down these stairs, I'm going to effing stab you to death. And not like I'm Billy Joe badass or whatever, but there's really no other way to handle something like that, because they're telling you directly, don't go to sleep tonight, white boy. They had started it because I was over doing pull-ups on the bottom of the stairs. So I'm not up in their area. I'm not doing anything. And the bathrooms are all downstairs right by the stairs. So they have to come downstairs to use the bathroom. But I'm over doing pull-ups. And so they involved themselves with me. I answered in a likewise challenge to them because they wanted to start it. And then they're upstairs saying all this stuff. So I go get a pencil because there's a lot of them and there's only 3 of us. And I tell them, the first one of you guys that comes down, I'm going to stab you to death. And I totally meant it. It was not a bluff. And the next morning, so I get through the night. The next morning we go out to these little smoke break yards. And there was Shane. I think he might have dropped out from NLR. I don't know. I'm not going to put his last name out there, but I had a friend from the Valley that was also there looking at some serious time. And if Shane sees this, he'll know who I'm talking about. Man, I love that guy. And then there was white guy from my dorm that was kind of a punk. He didn't want to fight, and he was trying to, like, 5 of these black guys come up on us. So there's 5 black guys and there's 3 white guys, and the one white guy was, like, trying to, like, make peace with him. You can't make peace with him because it's not that type of that thing. And to the black guys' credit, they were cool. They didn't, like, mob on us and stuff. They kept it straight up, one-on-one. Shane grabbed the white guy that was trying to make peace and slammed him up against the wall, just like tacoed his head against the wall, just jacked him up. But then the one guy that was telling me I had to roll it up, I'm like, no, I'm not rolling anything up, dude. And he had these big nails, these big thumbnails, and he tried to stab me in the neck with his thumbnail. So we're getting into it, and I didn't win that fight. He didn't win it either because I don't think we were fighting that long, but we wound up down by the latrine fighting each other right there at the base of the toilet on this little smoke break yard. And they all come running out, and they didn't, you know what, they did not jump us. So I don't know what black guys are going to see this out there in YouTube land. Respect for keeping it real. I mean, that was cool. Like I said, I did more than half my time in the hole. We're going to court. The guy finally gets out of intensive care. My crime partner had just gotten out of state prison, out of Tracy. He was up in Tracy, which is a really kind of violent prison, or Duell Vocational Institute. So he got a state-appointed attorney, which is a little bit better than a public defender. I only had, at the time, a public defender. And later on, as we would graduate, we'd get James Blatt is our go-to attorney in L.A. He's a former prosecutor for L.A. County, a great attorney. I've got no personal relationship with him other than, actually I do. He's worked on some other stuff for me. But at the time, we didn't have a good attorney. And because the crime partner, I almost said his name, had a state-appointed attorney, the guy gets out. We got a little bit better representation. The guy gets out. He gets up on the stands. He starts incriminating himself. And this is the very last day that they have to try us because they're almost out of time for arraignment and pretrial and all of that. He starts incriminating himself about selling drugs, and the judge is like, I want to see counsel in my chambers. The guy doesn't have any legal representation. It's the last day to try us, and so they wind up throwing out the 15 years to life. They wind up giving us a joint suspension thing that was a California wobbler. So later on, I could get that reduced to a misdemeanor and then get it expunged completely. And so if you go to buy firearms, they have a section on the back of your application for the federal government that says if you had your case expunged or whatever, and because it was never technically a felony, I'm not even a felon, dude.
That's crazy.
That is beyond crazy. But I lived my life as a felon for a long time. I lived my life not being able to join the military. I lived my life not being able to go to law school. And then after I became successful in other areas, becoming a manufacturing process engineer, managing an aerospace factory, first at a supervisory level and then being the director of manufacturing or of machining and engineering operations in Mexico, I started putting some money towards getting all this stuff knocked down and then getting expunged. And if anybody sees this that has a similar background to mine, if you have a violent felony and it's been 7 years, you can go and try to get it reduced in California and then get it expunged. And I encourage you to do so because so much in your life is going to be contingent upon the way other people perceive you. And if they perceive you as a felon, if you look and talk and act like one, you're limiting yourself. And like I said earlier, no one owns us. That's true, but we build our own prisons, Ian. And so I got to make sure that I stay on top of it. I got a lot of love. I have a lot of faith. I've been getting these tattoos lasered off for a long time. The place I was getting them done in Houston got shut down. I think that it wasn't up to snuff, but I would go in there and be getting these things off. I don't want to be perceived as a felon because when we like label people, if I were to label you as some guy with glasses, you're so much bigger than that, man. We all are. Law enforcement is any person that you meet, no matter what they got going on. They're bigger than just a couple adjectives thrown together. That's, oh, that guy's a loser, he's a felon or what. No, I disagree with that.
Do you look at those tattoos differently now? Do they have a different meaning?
They're a reminder of my past, a painful reminder. I have a wife. You've met her. She's Latina. She's from Mexico. And I got these big old, and I'm not shy about it either. Like, I'll go outside with tattoos, with a T-shirt on or whatever sometimes. And sometimes people will say something. I had it happen on Caltrain because I live in San Francisco sometimes too. There was some dude looking at him, and he was a certain color. And he's like, are those what I think they are? I'm like, yeah, they are. And people will ask you this stuff almost like they expect you to like be sheepish or stand. No, yeah, they're exactly what you think they are. You're involving yourself in my business. Do I look at them differently? I wish they weren't there. But at the same time, there's so many people that just want to be like up in your stuff. Are we allowed to cuss on this?
Yeah.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here, man. I mean, you weren't born and don't exist to like appease me, man. That's not the way the world works. And nowadays, so many people think that it's like that no. So I wish they weren't there. And at the same time, yeah, I have a past and it is what it was. I wish I would have gone to USC. I wish I would have gone to high school in Calabasas in a nice gated community. That's not what happened, man. Moving forward, do I regret it? I get sober and I meet this guy. You ask about the meaning of these tattoos. So I'm like openly racist, or was. Unapologetically, because I grew up that way. That's where I learned it. I wind up getting sober, man. And I meet this guy, these members of the Nation of Islam. And we're in this place, and we're getting sober, and I'm talking, and I'm reading a book on Dr. Joseph Mengele, and it's got a big swastika right on the front of it. And my issue's not with Jewish people, not at all. It was mostly against the gangs in L.A. And this guy walks in, big buff black guy. He's like, "What's that you're reading?" I'm like, "It's a white thing you wouldn't understand, you know." And we get into a fight right off the bat. And this is in L.A. Times. L.A. Times did a story on us. Margarita Ramirez. In fact, she's out here in New York now. She does a story on Andre and I because we're both openly racist. Nation of Islam black people are like kind of racist sometimes. I'm not going to define all of them, but Andre definitely was. We get in some fights, but we both got to be successful because we don't want any further problems with LA courts. When we get sober, and I was talking smack about Malcolm X, and they said, "What do you know about Malcolm X other than he's black?" I'm like, that's enough to not like him right there. And so these guys, we get in these fights, and they give me a book on Malcolm X, and it was the first real book that I had really read and paid attention to, and it was a biography on him. And come to find out, Malcolm X is one of my heroes. It's just crazy because I go from being like completely white supremacist. And we haven't even gotten into the drug cartels. How long are we going to be recording, man?
Wow, that's what I want to hear about. Well, let's hear this transformation first.
Transformation. So I go from, okay.
Finish this story about you.
I'm going to. They gave me this book on Malcolm X, and I'm reading it. But right before that happened, Andre had come by my room one day, and I was playing Amazing Grace on the bagpipes. And I've got this thing to where you're not allowed to deny somebody access to Jesus. And he wanted to hear this thing. He's like, "Can I listen to that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you can listen to it and you can leave, you know, because you're not allowed to deny people Jesus." And because Amazing Grace was playing on my little radio, I had to let him listen to it. He leaves. He comes back the next day. He's like, "I was thinking about you last night." And everyone in this place is like from prison or something like that. I'm like, "What the fuck did you just say? You're thinking about me at night?" He's like, "Yeah." It's like, if I'd been born white, I would be just like you. Fuck me up, man. Because I'm sitting here and I had blamed all my problems on the government, black people, my parents, Latinos. And I was gifted scholastically. I was gifted, or academically. I was gifted in sports. I did really good at that. And the best I could do with all of that is wind up in a place like that. And it wasn't anybody else's fault except for myself. And when I figured that out, and it just clicked, the faster I can blame myself and lay the blame on myself rightfully and things that I am capable and have power to change, the faster I can improve my own life. And when I figured that out, I stopped being a victim of everything. Your childhood, beat, wet in the bed until you're 13 years old. Your stepdad's beating the hell out of you. Mom is a hippie chick or whatever, man. whatever your thing is, you get what you get. And then how to figure out how to take what you have and turn it into something successful, which is somewhere you want to go. When I finally figured that out, and they gave me Malcolm X's biography, and in there it's talking about a man doesn't ask for freedom, doesn't ask for justice or anything. If he's a man, he takes it. This is a direct quote, and I paraphrased it, but that's Malcolm X was a very principled man. He left the Nation of Islam, and I'm not a Muslim in any way. I've read the Quran twice. I do not like what it says in it. It talks very specifically about cutting off the right hand and the head. Not my cup of tea. But he was principled. He was faithful to his wife. The Prophet Elijah Muhammad was messing around with women that were not of age. And ultimately, the Nation of Islam killed Malcolm X over this. So he was very principled, and he paid a great price for it. He's one of very few heroes that I have as far as his commitment to principle and living up to the ideals that he subscribed himself to. Because a lot of people are hypocritical. They'll say that they believe in something, and they don't really mean it. They'll say they believe it, but they act another way, including myself. I'm a hypocrite sometimes. I say I'm Christian. I get in my car, we're driving down. I'm not Christian anymore. I'm going to cut. You know what I mean? So I start making headway in my life. The drug cartel thing, my dad had a factory. The transsexual dad had a factory. So I learned manufacturing engineering. I learned everything from pulling bill of materials right up to delivering product to the government. We made like 90% of the airport runway lights in the world. My father and myself have made them, or other family members of mine. He used that to fund his transsexual surgery. Dr. Stanley Biber in Neenah, Wisconsin. It's another story. My mom was a professional chef, but going forward, I was living in that Firebird, always working and stuff like that. I go through all this stuff. I finally got a job working at Rexnord PSI. Before and after Russia. And I'd gone down to enlist, and I'd taken the ASVAB for the American government. This is a test you have to take, and I only missed like 3 on the whole thing. And I'd gone down repeatedly trying to get in the Marine Corps or the Army to be able to get into the Navy. And there's just no. But every time I would take my ASVAB test, they're like, whoa, man. Because I'm persistent, and you're persistent too. If you want to be successful in life, you got to be persistent. So I'd keep going down. The answer is, wow, you got a great score. You can be military intelligence. You can be whatever you want. Fuck yeah. And then they find out about your attempted murder thing, and they're like, no, fuck no, man. They're like, no, you can, there's a door, dude. And so they did, and I never got that either. Like, you're sending people over. You want these people to go kill your enemies. It's like, hello. And back in the 60s or earlier, they used to be like, hey, you can go in the military instead of going and doing time. But in my generation, it wasn't that way. They're like, no, we don't want to touch you with a stick. And then one time it finally got to the point, I'm like, you don't even have to give me, I even told them this directly. I told them, just stick me in a plane, give me a parachute, and let me jump out over people that want to cut off our heads. And you don't even have to arm me. Just give me a ticket. I really wanted to go do this. I wanted to go do the French Foreign Legion. My grandmother made me promise not to. So I had always had this inkling to go do something like that. And then fast forward to going to Russia. I had seen the Daniel Pearl beheading video, and that was the point when I just, because you want to hear how I got into Mexico. That was the point where I just had made up my mind. I'm not going to let the American government tell me that I can't go fight our enemies. And you'll see it all the time. You see it every time you get on a plane. Active duty military gets the board first. I mean, they worship military people in this country, but if you want to become that, they are like gatekeepers of who can be and can't. And it's like, but they say that you're free, you know, but you're not. You're not free to go do what you want. So I just, I'm not going to go actively become a member of the military in a country that is an enemy of the United States to avoid any legal problems. But if you have people that are cutting off my head or your head or any other American's head, we got to remember, like it or not, this country's filled with people of different groups, and they're all American because they're born here, which I completely subscribe to this. I mean, I totally believe that. And being grown men, it's our responsibility to show up and do something when something's going on. I wound up in Russia trying to go hunt Al-Qaeda. And there's a long story short. Long story short, they call it Federalna Služba Bezopasnosti, which is the Federal Security Service. And I'm not saying that's exactly what I wanted to go into because I don't have all the legal particulars on it. But in order, if you did want to go into it and you did look at their website, it would say stuff like they liquidated certain people. They don't arrest them. This person was killed. This person was liquidated going after Al-Qaeda terrorists. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go do that. So I wind up in Russia. And in order to get into something like that, the way they verify you is you have to know somebody that works there. So it's really hard to know somebody that works there, but you can probably have a good idea that people with college educations and stuff, they have these things called pioneers over there for the men, for the boys and girls. And when they're going to school, they get a little red ribbon and they go through school. They have advanced courses and stuff like that. They go and get their degrees. So if you're looking for people that have degrees and stuff like that, they're probably going to have something to do with that. You can start chasing down a way to get into this. So that's kind of like what I did. And I wound up learning Russian. Так, я хочу говорить с тобой по-русски, если я хочу. Я могу говорить с тобой по-русски. Вы говорите по-русски? Do you speak Russian?
No.
Because a lot of Jewish people do.
I don't speak Russian.
And so anyways, I start learning all this. I start with the alphabet, all this, and I wind up in Russia. And I'm not there that long, but I'm definitely looking for a way to like go do something because working and managing a factory wasn't not something I was really interested in doing.
How old were you when you were in Russia?
In Russia, that was 2000, 2001, 2002, around this. So I was 32, 33. I worked in the Bering Sea, and the Bering Sea transitioned to Russia. That's how that happened. Yeah, I spent about 8 years on and off in the Bering Sea working on the fishing and crab boats for Aleutian Spray Fisheries, Blue North Fisheries, Trident Seafoods. I worked for several companies there, fishing and crabbing in the Bering Sea. So because I'm fishing and crabbing on these boats, I'm making decent money. I've got ample chunks of time that I can spend other places in the off season. So that's how that happened. And I wound up going to Russia, trying to look for a way to go get Al-Qaeda because I just wanted to go play with guns.
Were you successful in that, or it didn't pan out?
No, I'll leave it at that. I do know people that were training military there. I did have a carload of Muslims joking about cutting my head off because I was an American. So if you're driving out to Mount Shakan, they do a lot of paragliding there. And when you're getting there, there's a prison on either side of the road, and we're driving through there, and there's like 6 Muslims in this station wagon. They're joking about cutting my head off because I'm American, and it's it's unnerving because you don't know if they're serious or not. And Bashkortostan is like a republic of Russia. It's 70% Muslim, and they're a lot more chill. Like there's a lot of to do about Dagestan and Chechnya and other areas in Russia. But Bashkortostan's 70% Muslim, so there are Muslim mosques everywhere and stuff like that. And you don't know if you're going to wind up dead. But you don't wind up in Russia out there if you're really concerned about your well-being to that extent anyway. So was I successful? No, mostly not. I did wind up having a daughter. They begged me to come back to the United States, which is really kind of what happened. Because in Russia, you're only going to make like $250 a month. So they're like, please go back to the United States and get a job. And so I went back to Rexnord PSI and was working there. And went back into manufacturing engineering, which is basically figuring out how you're going to take a chunk of raw material and turn it into something that's going to go on a plane or whatever. That's how I wound up in Mexico. I came back, and I had a headhunter call me, and they asked me they called me. I was walking into 7-Eleven at like 5 o'clock in the morning. This chick, Bonnie or whatever, calls me up on my phone, and she's like, do you want a job? I had just gotten back from Russia. She's like, do you want a job? This is 2007. And I'm like, who the fuck is this? I'm like, you're calling me at 5 o'clock? And she's like, I'm a headhunter. I have a mom and pop shop that was making actuators, hydraulic actuators for the aerospace industry, and they just got picked up by a major company, an international company, Triumph. Do you want a job? I'm like, of course I want a job. I just got back and I had posted my resume online. So I go out there and I get the manufacturing supervisor position for this company. All the leadership's brand new. They're running off all the old management, which is typical in a takeover. And so I get this job and it turns into a very decent job. We're doing a lot of military work for Boeing, and the company was in big trouble too. When you're doing military work, they have the right, because of national security, to just come in and shut down your factory and tell you that you're only working on these parts to avoid any type of problems with spare parts or production on military aircraft. So this company's in this type of trouble. And so I go in there, and because I've got the background from my dad's shop, I know from the floor to the entire scope or range, if you will, of how to get something out the door. So I start fixing all these problems, and I'm good at it because I know how to do the work, and I also know how to manage it successfully to where we're getting stuff out. I've talked about it before. I talked about when I burn off this tattoo on my neck with a blowtorch and a knife. And people are like, oh, that's so crazy. I'm like, no, it's not crazy. You can argue process, but you cannot argue results. You can argue how you're going to get something done, but once it's done, it's either done or it's not. And manufacturing is very much that way. You either have parts at the end of the month or you don't. And so I was good at fixing that. And when Obama got elected, and my ex is in Russia with my daughter, and she left my daughter in Russia, and Obama had got elected. My ex comes back to the United States without my daughter. And I'm trying to fast forward this because I don't want to drag it out for time constraints, but they'd asked me to go down and open this factory up in Mexico, and I told them no because I had 3 shifts of about 60 people or 65 people per shift that worked for me that depended on me to protect their jobs because I was their boss. I was manufacturing supervisor, and I'm like, no, I'm not designing processes so a bunch of Mexicans can go do your jobs. And it wasn't anything racist. Most of my guys were of Latino descent in the United States. But when I did that, I shot myself in the foot as far as because I'm middle management at this point, at advancing any farther at that factory because they're like, whoa, you're completely opposed to what executive management wants done. You're saying it and vocalizing this openly. You just torpedoed your entire future at this company, which is unfortunate because it's a really good company. I had stock options. I had everything. When I went to Mexico finally, because the first team went down there and failed and they came back, and I had used fear of the cartels as an excuse to stay out of trouble with human resources, so it wasn't insubordination. It was a legitimate fear. It was documented. The cartels, before I went, had already shot up the municipal police for several hours straight, shooting up a municipal. Can you just imagine that, going over to your local police station and open fire on it for hours? And this is just the way things go. So I go down there, and they ask me, will you go down there? And I had written the Procuraduría General de la República, which is Mexican Department of Justice. I would like to come down and hunt drug cartels for you. I speak all these languages. I speak Spanish fluently. Si yo quiero hablar con ustedes en español, yo puedo hablar en español perfectamente bien. I read it and write it and all of this. And I know weapons. I'm adept at martial arts. And all I want is just enough to pay for a simple apartment and some tacos and some razors, which is the way that I phrased it. So I'm not looking for money. And they write me back 6 months later. You can't work for us right now, not in this moment. And I thought that was great because they're not saying no. They're just saying not in this moment. And it was just the way that they use that term, no en este momento. And I thought that's fantastic. So if I take this job going down there to fix this factory, I'll have access to be able to talk to these people in person, and I will find a way. And Zig Ziglar, have you ever read him?
No, but I've heard of him.
Okay, you should read him, or there's also The Art of the Deal. Zig Ziglar's got this thing. They do studies when you're doing sales that most people can only say no about 7 times before they get to the root cause or their real objection on why they don't want to do business with you. And once you get to that objection, whether they have too much on hand, whether they don't trust you, whatever the objection is, it doesn't matter. You can override it. And sales isn't a logical thing. There's a feeling thing. There's a tug of war on feelings that are going on. And so when they told me not in this moment from like my sales days, I kind of just took that as, okay, that's not a no. It's just a not right now. And we can address whatever the particular issues are in person. We'll override it and we'll get there. And I know that you're great at sales because you talk people out of their money. So you know how to get people to say yes. Is it manipulation? It could be. There's a lot of manipulation in life. I don't like manipulation. Manipulation is kind of a one-sided thing. This wasn't a one-sided thing, and giving people a return on their investment isn't one-sided. So it's not really manipulation, but it is one of the very few areas where I'm good at dealing with people is figuring out how to override something. I do come off kind of like upfront and aggressive, but I also am very persistent and will try to legitimately give them what they want, which was someone that was going to go out in the field and do the work. So I would go down and knock on all these doors. The factory told me the first team went down there, will you please go down and straighten this thing out? And I'm like, yeah, I'll do it, but I'm going to be down there for a year. I'm not coming back to my job, so train my replacement right now. And they thought I was kidding. I want a $5,000 a month bonus for going down there and fixing it because this is like a $60 million factory. We're not talking pennies. The machining industry in Zacatecas was not at all existent, so I had to teach chili farmers from scratch how to machine flight-critical parts. I had to translate and draft technical documents from both English and French from Boeing and Airbus to get it to where someone that has a junior high school level education capable of following the instructions without messing it up. And it's got to be done repeatedly and consistently every month, because if you do a Boeing line stoppage, for example, contractually, it's like $1 million a day for line stopping. So you can't like not ship parts. So it's a big deal. So they acquiesced to my request, and they're like, okay. So I go down there, and at first I'm a tourist. I'm living there. I'm in Mexico. I'm drinking yogurt, Lala yogurt. The Mexicans, everything's great. I'm eating slices of mango and pineapple with hot sauce. I'm like, this is fucking great, man. I mean, I love Mexico, man. I'm reminiscing about it right now in my head. But I'm going there, and every morning at 7 o'clock they pick us up, and every night at 5 o'clock we're getting off work, and the Procuraduría General de la República base, the Department of Justice base, is right down the street from the airport where our facility is. And so as soon as I would get off work, I'd tell them, no, I'm taking a taxi. Take a taxi over there. And I'm knocking on their gate every day, man. And I'm like, I want to know what I have to do to come to work for you. And to be honest, most of the people that work for the Procuraduría General de la República, which is federal ministerial police, are degreed lawyers. They have law school and all this. And so I'm figuring out all these little things. And being a cop in Mexico or an agent or military, unless you're in the Marines, is really kind of looked down on. It's like a low-level job to where people don't have a lot of respect for it. And I didn't know any of this. I'm learning all this. I'm also learning Mexico, what it is to be Mexican, because when you go there, you're a tourist. I don't care who it is. Even Latinos of Mexican descent that go to Mexico are tourists when they get there because they don't know what it is to be Mexican and how things are. They might have heard it, but unless you've lived and experienced it, you don't know. 12 o'clock one day, I'm at the factory, and they tell us everyone has to go back to town right now because we're out at the airport, which is about 21 kilometers outside of downtown. So about 10 miles. Not quite, just a little under 10 miles. I'm like, why? And like, Cartel's shutting down the town and the highways. I'm like, what? Yeah, they're shutting down the town and the highways. This is the capital city in the state. And so I go back and I'm watching from my hotel business after business after business rolling down their metal doors like they got in downtown in Brooklyn or Manhattan, rolling the steel doors down over their storefronts because the cartel has given them notice that they're going to come through and start killing people. because they're pissed off because the bars weren't paying them their money to stay open till 2 o'clock in the morning. And this is like, this can't be real. And someone had asked me if I was afraid. I'm like, yeah, I'm afraid. I'm like a tourist in this place. And even though I want to come down here and work in this thing, I'm not there yet. And I'm watching them, and they did. And they, even just a week or so ago, they had just shut down major highways in Zacatecas, where I was at, with buses. They drop air or helicopters out of the sky at will. The cartel, a very powerful entity in Mexico, collectively and individually. So I'm down there, and I finally knock on this general's door for the state police, the Secretaría de Seguridad Pública. I'm there in my tie, my little stupid suit. And they're like, what's this gringo? And he didn't even come down to see me. And there's a great big, so this is a great big steel gate. So I'm knocking on the federal police door. I go to the Secretaría de Seguridad Pública, the public security secretary that was in charge of it for the state. And I knock on the door, and they tell me, they inform the general that I'm there. There's a general that's in charge of it, my general. And he doesn't see me that day. He tells me, come back the next day at 9 o'clock. So I come back the next day, and he let me up, and there's a big board office meeting. And there, I'll never forget it. Que chingas quieres aquí, gringo? That's what he tells me. That's exactly what he tells me. He's like, what the fuck do you want here, gringo? I'm like, General, I'm the person that's in charge of the manufacturing and engineering portions of this factory out here by the airport. He's like, I know. And I'm like, I would like to go to work for you. I like Mexico, and I want to stay here, and I want to serve the community. And he wanted a demonstration of me fighting 3 of his guys. And there's some people don't buy it, but I had to fight 3 of his recruits. I didn't have to fight 3 like studied martial artists or something like that, but I had to fight 3 of his recruits in basic training going through that to earn my spot there. And I just showed you that I got a thing called an acuse, and I showed you where I enter the Secretaría de Seguridad Pública with a rank suboficial operativo, and I was a specialized instructor in martial arts because I'm pretty good at fighting. Having a transsexual dad and growing up with gangs, you're going to get good at fighting. And no disrespect to the African-American community that I was talking about earlier. We all have got our little things, but I mean, when you challenge somebody, if you get used to rebuking their challenge or giving their challenge right back to them, then you're going to get used to confrontation. I love judo. One of the greatest things about judo is randori and being able to practice under real stress. And you get tough because you just get used to, like, getting hit's not as bad as it seems. And so him wanting a demonstration wasn't a big deal to me. It was just like, whatever. And it's not like I'm the toughest guy. I've been beat up lots of times, and I've been a coward in my own life. I have no shame in admitting that. I've not always been the white knight or whatever. There have been times when I felt little and small. And I think that that's most humans. If you're honest, I think a lot of people feel that way. There have been times when I've been fearful. Ant Dog from Pacoima, when I was in San Fernando Valley Juvenile Hall, man, I was terrified of fighting that dude, man. The guy was bigger than me. But you got to do it. And I did. I got lumped up, man. Black eye, the whole thing. When I was in Wayside Max and all the Latinos got on me, I called my mom from the hole crying because I knew that I was in there and it was my fault that I was there and I had no one to blame. So I'm in the hole. So a lot of people will say stuff on YouTube. I mean, let me ask you a question. How much hate do you get sometimes on YouTube? Do you ever get
Probably
hate?
50% hate, 50%, positive.
And I walk into your studio, and you know what? For all Ian's haters out there, I want to say this because I'm going to address you directly. When I walk into Ian's studio, and I've been to several studios now, been to Hector Bravo Unlimited. I've had Camp Ganyan in my own home. I've been to Johnny Mitchell the Connect, right to his studio. Ian Bick. When you walk into Ian's place of business, and I came here at night, and I've been here when Ian's not here. And I see what it looks like, and then I come in and I see what it looks like, so it's not a show. You get a combined view of the totality of what it is. His haters, he's bawling. He's got all kinds of famous people out there on his wall where you're making moves, dude. And good for you because your life is ending one day at a time. I'm in Mexico and I've got the opportunity to fight these 3 recruits. There's no chance in hell I'm going to lose. I'm not the biggest guy. My brother's like 6'6", 280. I'm like 5'10", 220, and I'm a little fat right now. So if at my fighting weight, when I was training, I trained at Gokor Chavicians in North Hollywood, which has the likes of Manvel Gamburian, Sebek Magakian, Karo Parisian. So real UFC fighters. I wanted to go pro. I wasn't good enough. I started too late, but I did have the opportunity. Ronda Rousey comes out of that gym. I had the opportunity to train with top-level talent. So when I went to go fight these 3 guys that were recruits that are basically no experience with martial arts, I toasted them, dude. Could I toast everybody, 3 guys all the time? I don't know. If you're ever on my YouTube channel or you come out to Portland and stuff, we'll go down to the gym and sign a waiver and we'll get busy. I will buy you steak afterwards because I believe in men being men. So it's not like I'm being a jerk saying that. I want to be your friend. But I'm also not having any of the hate from people that weren't there. I went through that and I went through basic training just like everybody else. We got GAFE Special Forces training. Technically, I'm a Grupo Aeromóvil Táctica de la Policía Estatal Preventiva, which means I'm a Mexican SWAT at state level with helicopters, rappelling upside down, Australian rappelling. And I'll send you some stuff that you can stick in the snippets if you want, a video and stuff like that training.
So you actually become a Mexican police officer?
I became an agent for the Secretaría de Seguridad Pública, yes. I became an instructor to begin with. I was teaching their recruits how to fight.
And the focus was to hunt down Mexican drug cartels?
Yeah, that was absolutely. They have this thing. There's other channels. There's 2 other channels that are super famous, and they talk about it a lot, but they don't really substantiate their background, which I take issue with. And I'm in communication with them because we're like our own little 3-way community. I talk to both of them regularly. One of them wants me to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and the other one kind of is taking issue with me being so direct in some of my questions to him. I'm not going to, no disrespect, but I'm an upfront guy, Ian. So there's a lot out there about what goes on. What goes on in Mexico? Initially, I enter as an instructor, and initially, I am teaching their recruits how to fight. Basically, they've got Paya de 24, which is your police baton. Different super simple takedown techniques, Kimuras and stuff like that, how to gain control of a resisting suspect. And judo is all about that. Judo is great with that. So sambo, and sambo is something else they teach. BJJ, all of this is taught out of Gokor. So it's like right down my alley about how to get a resisting suspect, how to take them down, and how to control their limbs. So I go in there doing that, and I'm basically doing 3 to 4 courses every day with different groups of recruits. Down on the Campo de Tiro, which is the firing area or the shooting range, which is all basically a gravel floor. So we didn't even have mats or anything. We're doing judo, taking people down, jacking up my uniforms. The general likes me. And so I get pulled in, and they've got state police, which is the Policía Estatal, and then they've got the Secretaría de Seguridad Pública, and they are not the same. The Secretaría de Seguridad Pública overlooks all the municipal police, all the state police, and everything that's going on in that area. And sometimes we will work in neighboring states because of the way that the geographic borders work out. They're not along the lines of latitude or longitude. They follow geographic formations, whether they're mountains or rivers, whatever. So if your highway's cutting across the mountains, you'd be jumping in 3 or 4 different states in a day. Because of this, they have things called Bases de Operaciones Mixtas, BOMs, which is federal and state preventative police, which are kind of like ass kicker police, like go out to confront any type of like armed enfrentamiento or firefight. They have the military, sometimes the Marines who typically operate within, I think it's 7 to 25 kilometers from the shore. That's their area in the seas. But because they are charged with that area, they cover a lot of the tourism places. But they also do have mobile bases where they operate in the interior of the country. So sometimes you do work with the Marines. I'd spoken earlier about how a lot of the military and police agencies in Mexico are not respected. They're not because a lot of the people only have junior high school educations. Everybody in the Mexican Marines has a college degree. You can't get into the Mexican Marines without having a college degree. So this is an interesting point. They are respected. They're kind of bloodthirsty because these are people that could be accountants, could be lawyers, it could be whatever else. And one of my own in-laws, who I'm very close with, is a colonel in the Mexican Marines. And so I'm not going to disrespect them in any way. I'm just going to say that they are completely committed to confronting violence with overwhelming violence because they could have chose any other profession and they chose to go be a Marine. So they walked away from Mexican money just to have the opportunity to go after people. They're committed. There are other people in the Mexican military that are also committed to this level too, but they don't get the recognition that they deserve because they only have a junior high school education or whatever. Long story short, you wind up in these operational units together and you go after cartels. The intelligence isn't ours. The intelligence usually comes from either a federal or a state level ministry police who are not reactionary forces. So, yeah, your general will, and I'm working directly for my general as a bodyguard, and he is in what your scope of work really depends on. Ed Calderon talks about it a lot when he's working with Teniente Colonel or Lieutenant Colonel Lezola Perez, who is famous and has even been paralyzed because of his will to go out. So if you get a lackadaisical boss that isn't committed to working or whatever, or has been bought off, you're not going to do a lot of work. If you have a boss that was a soldier, a soldado de brasa, so enters as a private and goes all the way up to becoming a brigadier or a general de brigada in Spanish, which is almost as high as it gets. They have they got 1 eagle and 2 eagle and 3 eagle generals. My general was almost a 3 eagle general. He just shy of that. And so he's basically like his own little mini god, and he can go out and do whatever he wants. He's very committed to going and making sure that he's doing his job well. Guy gets up every day at 4:45. We go out, we run 5 kilometers every single morning in our gear. We are never late. Your uniform has to be impeccable. We've guarded the Dalai Lama. We've guarded government personnel, UN personnel, but we've also gone out and done a lot of missions because you're Gatpe. I was 3rd generation Gatpe. So you'll go out and you'll get this intel and you have these security meetings at the local military base, which in Mexico and Zacatecas is the Onceava. They have different military bases in different areas of the state. But where the state police are headquartered at and the Secretary of the Seguridad Pública are at, it's right next to the 11th Military Zone. And I have a picture of myself on that base. And I'm out there waiting at the truck, and we get our plans of what we're going to do, and we go out and we carry out these missions on a state level or sometimes an interstate level, depending on what's going on. And you'll even have other areas, which is why the military is involved, to where you go out, similar like joint task forces here in the United States. And we'll go out and we load up our trucks and we'll go get whoever needs to be gotten. And then we go turn in the captured trucks. Semifo will come over and pick up the bodies. We'll bring in the captured trucks over to the federal ministry, or if they're really shot up, they'll go to the 11th Military Zone. I've got pictures of those vehicles too. And I don't know what else you want to know about that, but yeah, you work that, and I've done this. Did it up until I showed you my letter of separation in the end of 2016.
How did the Mexican soldiers and law enforcement personnel react or respond to you being from America and working with them?
That's a good question. I'm going to get myself in trouble right now. I'm going to get myself in a lot of trouble with the Mexican government right now because David Monreal, and I'm going to name him. I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it. David Monreal is the current governor of Zacatecas State. And one day we had to go arrest all the municipal police in Fresnillo, which is a major city in Zacatecas. So just imagine everyone going over to Hartford, Connecticut and arresting all the city cops because the city cops are out threatening people on how to vote. And I'm getting into your question, which is how did the Mexican military and police react to someone white being there? The threat is real in Mexico. David Monreal, who is now a governor, and his uncle is a senator for the entire Mexican Republic, Ricardo Monreal. David and his security escorts, when we're arresting all of the municipal police, not letting them go out, so we're keeping them in their base so they can't threaten the voters because he was the mayor of Fresnillo at the time. He comes over and he starts taking photographs of all of us, the military and the police, because we're there keeping all the municipal police or state-level agents, which I was. He took a picture of my face and other people's faces as a direct threat against our well-being, because otherwise, why would you be taking pictures of our faces when we don't have our balaclavas on, or in Spanish they call it paso montaña? And you asked me what they thought, and there was a squad of Mexican military parked right next to me, and we were eating pizza, and they were tripping. They're like, hey, que chingon, that's so cool that you're here doing this. And they were asking about me a lot. So in some ways, some of them are very, very, very supportive of me. They're like, man, right on. Other ways we were at the military base in Aguas Calientes, which is a neighboring state, scared the living shit out of me because one of my own partners from my own platoon was, Frank, how do we know, because they call me Frank, how do we know you're not CIA? Scared the fuck out of me. You just imagine the gravity of that. Because my sister would have dreams of me dying in a foreign prison. And I'm sitting there, I've got a machine gun, I'm in uniform, I'm on a Mexican military base and deep in the heart of Mexico. And the guy's name was Roman. He's like, hey, Frank. And he's asked me right in front of a whole bunch of like other Mexican soldiers and shit, how do we know you're not CIA? And he said, we, because he's Mexican. They're all Mexican. My butthole puckers up like that, man, because I'm just terrified, man. What do I say? And like you'll have a whole course of thoughts that run through your head in half a second. And the only thing I could think to say was actually brilliant. I'm like, Roman, I'm here because my general told me to be here. I'm not over there, and I'm not doing one thing more or less than exactly what my general tells me to do. And if you have a problem with my general's orders, I advise you to go over there and ask my general himself what you think he should do, or tell him what he should do, and he just shut the hell up, because generals in Mexico are very, very, very powerful people. Extremely powerful. You can't even imagine how much power they have. Much more powerful than here in the United States. Not in the amount of military force that they levy, but the amount of authority that they command in Mexico is considerable, we'll just say. And so that shut them all up right then and there, because in order for them to continue challenging me, they would be challenging our general, which is just unheard of. You don't do it. It's a good way to get in a lot of trouble. So I've had them feel that way about it too. I've even had one of my members of my own squad thought that I went to Mexico to go kill Mexicans. He's like, Frank, you're just here to kill Mexicans. I'm like, nah. And he gave me my boonie hat. His name is Bucalo. And his name in Spanish, if you say look for something, it would be Buscalos, where you can hear me saying the S. But because of where he's from in Mexico, they don't pronounce their S's. So when they say something like Buscalos, like look for them, they would say Bucalo. So it's kind of like the difference between an LA or New York and Texan accent. They're very distinct depending on where you're from. And these days we're friends because they saw that wasn't true. I was viewed with a great deal of suspicion, admiration, racism, both positive and negative. People treated me better than they should have because I was white, but people treated me worse. And by far the worst racism that I received was actually the positive racism. One day we were at the base, the military base, and Marco, another one of my brothers in my platoon, told me, Frank, you're lucky that the general gave you a job because you're a effing gringo. And man, I had to hold back tears, man, because I mean, you getting substantial life-threatening situations with these guys. And I told Marcos, I'm like, man, how can you tell me that, man? I would fucking die for you, kill for you, to protect you. You're sitting here telling me that I'm not good enough because I'm fucking white. Really hurt my feelings, man. I was like, whoa. And to these days, I think Marcos is here in the United States now in Oklahoma. But this is a guy, and I've got a picture with him where we're up at like super early in the morning drinking cinnamon sugar water, which is what they make. It's fucking great, man. I love it. They call it canela in the morning. And I fucking love this guy, dude. But he told me flat out, they're like, hey, you're a fucking gringo. You shouldn't even be here. And I get it. But then there's also other times where I didn't have any money. Like when you go into service in Mexico, it took like 4 months for me, 4 to 6 months for me to even get my first paycheck. So, I mean, my wife and I, we were like super poor, man. And we were eating like one pack of spaghetti with a little like cajita, like a little box of like tomato sauce every day for months.
So you're done with the warehouse job?
Yeah, I'm done with the warehouse job. I entered service. I came back to the States and I quit. And they're like, fucking what? They gave me all this money, my separation. Because, I mean, this is like a big job. And I'm like, definitely management. So, like, there's a severance package, the whole deal. So I'm living off this. But it's not like mad money either. It's like, yeah, I'm going to go happily retire in Mexico. Definitely not. My wife and I used a lot of that money to go on like a great big several state trip to San Luis Potosi, Hidalgo, Tamaulipas, all these different states. But we didn't have a lot of money. So when I first got my job there, we were like kind of poor, man. Had a little bit of money, but definitely not like crazy cash. And we're eating all this stuff. So I didn't have any money, and we're out working. And my own brothers from my platoon would like go buy chicken wings from Soriano, which is like Mexican Walmart. They'd come back and they'd share them with me. And the day I graduated Special Forces GOT Pay training, they have these things called carnitas de buche, which is basically pig stomach. This deep fried, man, it's so delicious. And they got normal carnitas. And I took the whole box of the pig stomach tacos, and I ate all of that myself to my head, like probably at least a pound of it. It was great. You know, a lot of people, I'm really grateful to have this opportunity to talk to you because my brothers watch this. You know, a lot of people think that I make stuff up. I don't make it up, and there's some partners that I have that down the road, I'll have them on my show. In fact, I've got one of them that's already been on my show. They have their own Facebook pages. They've been putting their photos out for years. And there's other people that come to this country and like try to be all mysterious, like there's some type of danger. There is a danger, but you know that as soon as you put that uniform on, that you're dead as dog shit anyways, as soon as the cartel wants you to be dead.
Yeah, were you an easy target because you were white?
100%. The first night we get back, I don't like cussing. I'm not going to turn it into a bunch of F-bombs. But the first night out on patrol, we wind up catching a Sicario, which is a Mexican hitman for one of these cartels. And we go back to base. And you have to turn them over. A lot of people are like, why aren't there more details about a lot of stuff? Because you're dealing with like crazy shit, man. You know, there are details that when SEALs or whatever go out on their missions in Kandahar or whatever, you've had Navy SEALs or whatever that are busted for human rights violations, busted for extrajudicial killings, this type of things. The parameters of the world that you live and work in are so foreign or alien to anything that like normal civilians would encounter. And in Mexico, they say police or agents or military. It's a drug war. So everybody involved in that is a combatant, either for the government or otherwise, for the cartel. So every single thing that you encounter there, which could be extrajudicial killings, which could be torture, which could be major heavy hitter offenses or anything, you have to be really delicate about the way that you even portray something, because some prosecutor either in Mexico or here could be like, you know what, I want to investigate that. And then you wind up, was it a illegal killing? Was it not? I mean, we just had that with the Sonia Massick killing with Sean Grayson, a deputy, and They just found him guilty of second-degree murder. It's a travesty as far as I'm concerned. There's no way someone should be killed. Innocent people should never be killed. Make that super clear. But it is a world where my own Sombra, my shadow, that I went through basic training with, Iguana, was killed, murdered by one of us. They said it was a firing accident, but I have my own suspicions of what went on. So when you start talking about these things, and anybody that's been in the military or police or law enforcement, or even a felon or whatever that's been involved in the dark side, automatically knows exactly what I'm talking about when I say there's just certain things that you can't talk about. We catch a Sicario and we go turn them in like we're supposed to, but we're just going to say that the people that I worked for found out where I was at with everything right off the bat, throwing me into the deep end of the pool, right off the top. And they told me, you asked me, are you easy pickings because you're white? That night they told me, don't say anything because they'll hear your accent. And I started talking anyways because I just knew that they're going to pin me right off the bat. And the reason why I knew that is because some of the people that you work with, even in the Marines or even in the Army or even at federal level or state level, and especially at the municipal level police, already work for the cartel anyway, so they already know who you are, which is why I said as soon as you put that uniform on, you're already dead if they want you to be dead. It's that simple. And someone said on one of the YouTube videos I did over in Camp Gagnon, how is this guy still alive? God, or I just wasn't important enough to kill. I'd never done anything disrespectful, like take some money or involve myself in anything that I should or shouldn't have done or whatever. I've only done exactly what I was told, nothing more, nothing less. Show up at work at 0400 every 2 days because I work 43-hour shifts with 5 hours off. That's exactly what I did. So that's how I'm still alive. Everybody knew who I was there. Arturo Nolly, who was one of the state level prosecutors, the federal level prosecutor, I was guarding her and taking her home. The female prosecutor at the state level that came in after Nolly, I've been in security reunions or meetings with my weapon that's stamped with the Secretariat of Defense Nacional right in front of these people. So it's such a over-the-top foregone conclusion that out of the three of us that are here in the States that have worked for the Mexican government, there's not even a shadow of a doubt. So just to shut up any haters you're going to get on your video, there's a great big toma. None of them were there. I mean, how do you deal with your haters?
You need them. They're important.
They are important because I love interacting with them, man. And they drive up the algorithm, man. I love that you guys tell me I didn't like judo slam somebody or whatever, man, because I absolutely did. And if I have the chance, I'm going to do it to you too, even if you're 6'6". So I come in, I'll take my lumping. You'll be like, at least he's got the balls to show up, because I totally do.
Why did you decide to leave Mexico and come back home?
Because my wife had dental pain, man. My general retired. And I went through like a year of depression, man. When my general retired, Ed Calderon rightly speaks about... Do you know who Ed Calderon is?
Yeah, I just saw his episode with Johnny, and I think he's been on him before.
They want me to sign a non-disclosure agreement, a non-disclosure agreement. In fact, I got my email on my phone right now. I can show you if I want, and I'm not going to do it. And Ed and I are getting along. I mostly think that he is who he says he was. But also, I would like to see him substantiate a little bit more who he says he was, the way that I did with my documents as soon as I got here. I think that's kind of cheesy. But mostly, I respect Ed and his service of what he did do. Ed's totally welcome in my house. And his partner, Eddie, I think they're a great guys. So I'll just make that clear. Repeat the question again one more time.
Why you decided to come back and leave
Why
Mexico?
I've decided to come back to Mexico or leave Mexico. So Ed's talking about things working in sexennials because they're 6-year terms in Mexico. And what I was doing for my general, albeit while it was legal and technically I was not military, I was working with the military constantly. My instructors were all GAFE. But it was close enough to being illegal that every day I went to work, I was worried about being arrested or whatever. And one of the people that I worked with, John Casara, was Colombian Special Forces, who was also involved with GATPE, the unit that I worked for. And he was a hitman for the Zeta drug cartel. And the Cartel de Jalisco de Nueva Generación is going on. This whole thing's going on. So these are like heavy hitter cartels that we're up against. It's not like some little deal. It's big boy rules, like Hector Bravo says. My general leaves, and the next governor's coming in, Teo, and I've got pictures with Governor Miguel Alonso Reyes, and I've got pictures with Governor Teo. So to avoid any type of problems with impropriety or however the incoming administration is going to take it, when my general's leaving, I'm leaving also. And so I was going to law school.
In the U.S.?
No, in Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And got a job working for a law office helping campesinos. You're asking how I got to the United States, and I'm going to tell you. So I was making $35 every 2 weeks working for a law office helping campesinos doing ley agrario, agrarian law. And they would pay us in burlap sacks full of chili and Mexican goat milk cajeta or caramel because they didn't have very, very, very good, hardworking people, man. Wow. Just remembering it, my heart goes out to them. And I wasn't making very much money, but I'm going to law school and I'm getting straight A's. And I did not graduate law school in Mexico. I've got that document with me too, if you want to see it, where I'm actually in my 6th trimester or whatever. So you got 6 out of 9 trimesters. So I'm almost done with law school. And because of my status as a Mexican citizen, they didn't want to let me continue law school. And then I finally did continue. But my wife had dental pain. And I'm only making $35 every 2 weeks. And as a man, I could not allow my wife not to be able to go to the dentist because I didn't have the money. And so when I had access to the American job market, and I told her, in fact, I got in big trouble with her. My wife is a very, very, very hard worker. National level reporter, has interviewed the Dalai Lama, has interviewed my vice president of Mexico. Super accomplished person, college professor. And I'm teaching English at this college too, but still I'm only making $35 a week. I come back to the U.S. and I get a job. And because I've got all my legal studies, I do her visa paperwork and everything, get that all done so I don't have to spend a ton of money on getting her over here. Finally get her over here, and now I can take care of her a lot better. But that's basically how I wound up back in the U.S. I did go through a long period of being bummed out because I don't get to like hang out with a weapon. Sean Ryan talks about it, and Joe Rogan. They've both blown me off, ghosted me or whatever. They never answer my emails, and maybe they're so big they don't know about me. But Sean Ryan talked about going through a depression or being addicted to adrenaline. And I've been sober for a long time, but I think for a long time I was addicted to adrenaline. The Bering Sea, my early childhood, just constant, like just ODing on adrenaline constantly. And the stress that goes along with it, that I went through like probably a year of being depressed when my general retired. But my wife put me through school and showing me that, hey, you can produce something. You can be something bigger. I want to become a lawyer in this country, but in order to do that, I have to have a degree here in this country. So I'm chasing that down and going through the hoops. I mean, just baby steps, but one thing at a time. That's how I wound up back in the United States. Practicing law in Mexico isn't something that's going to pay you a lot of money. And although I do like helping people out, you have to be able to exist in the world too. And $35 a month or a week, every 2 weeks isn't going to make it.
What's your life like now?
I live 3 blocks away. They cut this out of the Hector Bravo video, but you know what? I'm just going to say, I'm going to put it out there. It's probably not smart, but I live right across the street from Portland Department of Homeland Security. So if you want to come find me, including you bad guys, I'm not like challenging you on or being disrespectful. I admit that you are a powerful, formidable enemy. I don't want any of that smoke. At the same time, I'm not a Marika or like a little girl, and you know what? I'm going to do what I'm going to do because no one owns me, and I haven't done anything to wrong you. That goes to the American and Mexican governments, too. Completely respect the scope of your authority or whatever, and I try to live within the bounds that are set upon all of us by society. But what's my life like now? I live in Portland. It's beautiful. I look at Mount Hood every day. I drag my canoe down to the river by hand or my paddleboard and go paddleboarding. I surf on rocky ocean beaches. I drink liberal coffee in Portland because it's just fucking great. I do miss LA. Sometimes I'm thinking about whether or not I want to live in New York right now. I do my stupid YouTube channel. I have my Harley. I go ride. Not right now. I lost the keys to my chopper, Ian. I did.
Well, you're always welcome to use our second studio over here.
No, man. Well, no, I would love to hang out. I love learning from people. I've learned so much from you and Johnny and Hector and Camp Canyon about the way that you do things, the importance of knowing people's names. Matty Ice, meeting him. And I'm learning. So my life right now is in another period of reinventing myself on how I'm going to become a podcaster, maybe with limited or no success, or maybe hugely successful like you. Do you have any idea how many people tune into you? I'm sure you do because you've got the metrics on your YouTube studio.
Last month we did about 1 million listens on Spotify and Apple, and then YouTube is about like 3 to 4 million a month.
That is a huge audience that you have, and there's a substantial amount of power that comes along with that. And so just with this Camp Canyon video, between the two videos alone for him, I've already reached 1/3 of 1 million people.
Wow.
So what's my life like right now? I am trying to figure out how to become you. And I just flew across the country. I drove 18 hours straight to go see Hector Bravo. I had Camp Canyon in my home. That's what my life is like right now. And still backing that up with, I'm going to go to my hotel room right now, do my last programming assignment for this semester, and take my final on Friday after I do Camp Canyon's grinding. How many hours a week do you work?
I mean, I probably do an interview a day, so say that's 2 hours, and then if there's 2 interviews, 4 hours sometimes, and then a couple hours for editing, 6. I mean, but then comments, responding, you're always technically doing something. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you can really, quantify that and put it into numbers. But I will say that I worked more hours before when I didn't have a team.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I still do my own editing and clip making, but now I have like my brother, and I have someone to get like the celebrity guests, and I have Matt, who all do a lot of things. Skylar's my brother.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so
he's cool. Hey, Skylar, what's up, dude?
I have those things in place. So before I used to do all of that.
Right, I'm doing all that right now, man.
And you'll get to that level through consistency of where you have people helping you, but we all started at that first spot.
I'm right. I agree. So you asked what my life's like right now, learning from you guys. Mark Gagnon. These guys get up early. They come over. They set up. They're filming at my house all day long. Then they're jumping out of my house and they're going down to the state prison, Oregon State Penitentiary in Salem. They're doing a thing with Jelly Roll. And then that night, he's going back and he's doing 2 shows on top of it. So anyone out there in YouTube land that's listening to Ian, or anyone that just got out of the military, or all of you formal federal agents or former convicts, they ask what I'm like right now. I'm some little scared kid that just grew up in a man's body and got used to like dealing with confrontation through judo and through gangs, to where I got to figure out how before I die, I'm going to become successful. So I study these people, but the work ethic is a critical component of that. Doing everything necessary, being of good moral character, or doing your best. My wife, I love her. I'm crazy in love with my wife, man. It doesn't mean there's not other beautiful women out there, but I am committed to that woman. I'm committed to my God. I don't know what it's like to be in the Jewish faith, but I do know that you guys have 613 commandments, and I dig on it, man, because I read them. And if something's a good idea, Malcolm X and the Nation of Islam, but being married to principle. So what my life is like right now, I'm trying to figure out how to become, and I got to be driven, Ian. I got to be driven, how to become a lawyer, because for so long, man, this is why I came to New York. You just helped me figure out right now. I want to help people be the best version of themselves, man. I was gifted sobriety. I was gifted all these opportunities. I was gifted the drive. I was gifted an ability with languages and stuff like that. Which means in Russian, I can do whatever I want to do. Yo puedo hacer lo que sea. I can do anything I want if I just can see it. And once I can see it, we shoot our rabbits one at a time. That's like my saying. Because when you are shooting your rabbits, I grew up as a boy shooting rabbits and squirrels, and we would eat them. You shoot them one at a time. We'd shoot them with a 22. You're not shooting 10 of them. You're shooting the one that you got in your sight, and that's what you do. You focus on something. Women maybe have circular logic, I don't know, but me as a male, I'm going to look right there, and I'm going to go get it one at a time. So when you ask me what my life is like now, it's chasing down becoming a lawyer and becoming a successful YouTube personality so I can help people benefit their lives. We live in turbulent times, man. Country's divided. Inflation's super high. I don't want to get off on a political tangent because people have reasons on why they feel the way they feel, no matter who they are. But that's what my life's like right now. And I'm here to learn from you, man.
What advice would you give your teenage self?
Stay in school. Stay in school. The drugs and stuff like that, yeah, probably not a good idea. The violence and stuff like that, not good, but stay in school because you cannot improve yourself with the ideas that you currently have in your head. You have to reach outside. You can learn something through spontaneity and doing something like that might come along, but the level that an education has on you, albeit a formal one. I had City College of San Francisco. They had me do a class where I actually had to write papers from being an obese person's point of view. Kind of woke. I didn't dig on it, and I skateboard still to this day. I surf, so I'm pretty physically active. Was not within the line of sight of what I would consider to be an education, but I had to do it. So go to school. And be a person of good moral character because all of that comes back on you. That's the advice I would give myself. Stay in school. Those two things. If you do those two things, you almost can't help but be successful.
Dave, I appreciate you coming on the show today.
Hey, man, I appreciate you letting me come here.
Yeah, this was a great interview, bro.
Was it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't done this long enough to know, man.
No, you did really good. It's different because you're probably, a lot of your interviews are probably mostly, you're focused more on your time in Mexico. This
Right.
we got kind of like your whole story, which was, I think, really cool. And that's kind of my style.
Yeah. I learn a lot from you, man. You, Ian Bick, affected me from a country away, and you didn't even know it. You didn't know who I was. And I watch you put your stuff on Facebook. I was supposed to come out here earlier. Didn't happen. And then I was hoping it could happen again, and now I finally got it done, man. I am grateful. You have an open invitation of mine and my wife's house. You know my wife. You know her name. We live right there in Portland. You can come anytime you want. Your brother and Maddie Ice can too, and your girl.
I'll definitely see you out there, especially when I go to see JD.
Yeah, definitely.
So
well,
I'm a visit.
if you come, you know what? I'm glad this is still recording. If you come to fucking Oregon, man, and you don't let me buy you dinner, I'm gonna take it as a personal affront. No, because man, you're cool, dude. You're good people. So
you're cool people too, man.
right on, man.
Awesome.